There we go. The tent is officially all set up. Yeah, sorry that it took so long. To be honest, I don't often bring the tent with me. Not unless Master Rusia comes with me out to the wilds anyway. I usually just sleep under the stars, but I figured that since this would be your first night in the wilds, you would probably prefer the safety of the tent to sleeping out in the open. Of course. How's the fire spit going? Yeah, it can be a little tricky to set up sometimes. It's kind of old. Let me have a look. Well, it looks like you have the first mounting stake in. Yep, nice and secure. As for the second one... It looks like you may have hit a rock. That's alright, happens all the time. If you try moving it backwards a bit, this spot should do just fine. Next, you're going to want to take that rod over there and rest it on top of these hooks on top of the mounting stakes. Once we skewer the meat on it, we'll screw the spit cap onto the pointy end of the spit to keep it from slipping off, and we'll be ready to start cooking. I can already smell the juices dripping off the pork we bought as it roasts, and the smoke coming off the sausages as the skin's crisp. Whoops. Sorry. I guess I'm hungrier than I thought. Speaking of which, the fire pit you made looks great. You arranged the stones in a perfect circle just like I showed you, and the sticks you found look pretty good. Nice and dry with only a few green ones. We should have a pretty good fire in our hands with this once we get it lit. Am I going to use fire magic to start the campfire? Actually, the thing about fire magic is... Can summer elves not use fire magic? No, it's not that. We can, actually, just not me. Oh, no, you are correct. I am indeed a summer elf, but it's complicated. I'll explain it to you later. For now, let me show you what we'll actually be lighting the campfire with. Let's see. Ta-da! These, my dear human, are called spell tags. What do they do? Well, spell tags are rather unassuming pieces of parchment that have been inscribed with a very special type of ink. Satyryte ink, in fact. Written with a Satyryte pen by a magic user adept in the specific element that the spell on the spell tag belongs to. Do you remember how Satyryte has the innate ability to store mana and channel magic? Well, not only can Satyryte be turned into catalyst, but someone also figured out that if you treat the Satyryte, grind it down, and distill it into an ink, the ink itself can hold on to magical energy. So, using a catalyst pen fitted with treated Satyryte, of course, a professional can write out a spell script, which is the written blueprint of the spell itself, on top of a slip of parchment like this, and imbue the tag with the actual spell itself. They are very cool, but it gets even cooler. Not only do they allow you to use spells that you don't even know, but you don't even have to be capable of using the corresponding element to the spell on the tag to activate it. All you need to do is channel some mana through the tag and voila! Magic! Yup, it's that easy. Well, hold on. Although spell tags are very useful, they're not magic do-it-alls. Actually, they are magic do-it-alls, but they're not super magic do-it-alls. Because the Satyryte has to be distilled into the ink, you lose a lot of it along the way. So, spell tags can only be imbued with spells up to level 1. Even if they could hold higher level spells, a spell's script gets larger and more complicated the more powerful it gets. So after a while, you'd be carrying around an entire poster just for one spell. And that's not really that practical. Besides, spell tags are mostly intended to be used as tools, not weapons. Now you're getting it. For example, This spell tag is inscribed with a water spell called Lesser Spout, which essentially creates a tiny stream of water for about 20 seconds. This one is inscribed with a wind spell called Breeze, which generates a small but quick gust of air. And this one has been inscribed with an ice spell called Chill Touch, which immediately begins to cool whatever you place it on. It takes a little more mana to activate since ice is a combo element between wind and water, but the payoff is well worth it. I use these ones a lot on my canteens when I'm out in the wilds on hot days. Oh, yes, anybody can use spell tags, so long as they can channel mana, of course. There's very little focus or skill required. Just channel and the spell tag does all the rest. Oh, yeah, the fire. We'll be lighting the campfire with this one. This one's been inscribed with Ember. It's a level 1 fire spell that generates a tiny smoldering flame about the size of an acorn. Not very conventional as far as self-defense goes, but it's perfect for getting a fire going. Speaking of which, are you finished setting up the campfire? Perfect. We'll light it just before the sun disappears to preserve timber, and you can help me finish setting up the tent. Come on. So good. What do you think of your pork roast? Is it cooked enough for you? Do you like it? I'm glad to hear it. Seasoning makes all the difference. That's why I always pack that shaker of garlic salt whenever I know I'll be eating out in the wilds. Garlic, salt, and pepper makes everything better. I can't wait to try one of the sausages. Apparently, they have cubes of cheese in them. Do you need any more water, by the way? I can use another lesser spout spell tag to refill your canteen if you want. Okay, well, don't hesitate to ask if you do. You have a question? Sure, what is it? You want to know why I couldn't light the fire earlier, even though all summer elves can use fire magic? No, you don't have to apologize for anything. And I did say earlier that I'd tell you about it later after all, and later is kind of now, so... Alright, if you really want to know, there's a few things that you're going to have to know first. So, you may remember me already mentioning something about this when we first met, but every sentient race on Gaia is only capable of using about 3 schools of magic. Well, it's entirely dependent on your genes. See, there are 10 schools of magic. There's the 2 metaphysical schools, healing magic and psychic magic, and the 8 elemental schools, fire magic, water magic, wind magic, earth magic, lightning magic, flora magic, light magic, and shadow magic. Each race has their own patron element, secondary element, and tertiary element. The patron element is the elemental school of magic that every magic caster of a given race is intimately capable of using. It's the element that kind of just comes naturally to you, you know? For example, the patron element of the dwarves is earth, the patron element of the orcs is fire, the halflings have lightning, and the beastkin have shadow. What element belongs to the elves? Well, that's where things get just a teensy bit complicated. You see, there are 4 different races of elves, each of which has their own patron element. I myself am a summer elf, and as you know, Rusia is a winter elf. Then there are the autumn elves and the spring elves. All 4 races of elves are descended from one original elven race called the High Elves. The patron element of the first elves was flora. Over time, Their people spread out as their nation fell in the wake of some kind of a great cataclysm, though, and the land of the High Elves was lost. Some of those pilgrims traveled north and settled among a stretch of mountains covered in a dense forest where the trees look like they're always in fall. The pilgrims named those mountains the Autumn Mountains, and their children became the Autumn Elves, whose patron element is air. Next, another group of settlers traveled east where they settled in what is now called the Blooming Glades, a series of wetlands that appear to always be, well, in bloom. There's flowers everywhere. Honestly, it's actually really pretty. Very colorful. Anyway, the elves that settled in the Blooming Glades became known as the Spring Elves, who carried on our shared ancestors' patron element of flora. Next are the Winter Elves, whose ancestors traveled even further north than the Autumn Elves to settle in one of the harshest lands I've ever been to, Hugaheim. Well, apparently in their language, Huga is a word that translates as finding comfort and warmth in the simple things. Things like friendship and camaraderie, and Heim means home. So I think that it kind of speaks for itself, as ironic as that is now. What makes it ironic? Well, all due respect to the far north elves, but friendly is not exactly a word that you would normally use to describe them. They're a very exclusive people, and they usually don't take very kindly to foreign visitors, so not much is well understood about their culture, and it doesn't help that the icy coast they call home is so unforgiving and out of the way. But it's not my place to speak on them. Anyway, that's where Master Rusia is from. Oh, you're thinking about asking Master Rusia about the Winter Elves when you get back? I don't know if that's the best idea. Well, the last time I asked about Master Rusia's homeland, he got very snippy, even more so than he already is. Call it intuition, but I don't think Master Rusia left on the best terms. Alright, well, you can't say I didn't warn you. Back to what we were talking about. Lastly are the Summer Elves, my people. My ancestors left the mainland to settle on a string of tropical islands that they named the Sunrise Isles, on account of how beautiful the sunrises are. The islands are tropical, so everything there is always green and warm as though they were in an eternal summer. I was born there, on the central island called Solaire. The patron element of my people is light, the personification of the sun. But that's not all. Remember how I said that every race also has a secondary and tertiary element they can call upon? Well, think of the secondary element as complementary to the patron element, which requires some training to master, but not a ton, and the tertiary element as an extra related element that, with practice and a lot of training, could be mastered, but usually just ends up being a supportive element for the first two. The secondary element of the Summer Elves is fire, which is kind of a no-brainer for the whole summer thing. And our tertiary element is flora, a trait which all elves share. Well, almost all elves. Alright, so remember how I couldn't light the fire earlier? No, it's not that I have a different secondary element, or that I haven't mastered it. It's more like I don't have a secondary element. Or a tertiary element. Alright, well, I have a little bit of a, call it a, mutation. Now, I'm not talking about spontaneously growing gills or a tail or having some kind of weird skin color change. Sometimes when members of a different species have children, there is a very small chance that a child will be born as a hybrid of the two. This is known as a genetic mutation, and although incredibly rare, it does happen. Sometimes it can affect your physical appearance, but it can also affect the type of magic you can cast. In my case, it was a little bit of both. My father is a summer elf who was born on the third largest island of the Sunrise Isles, Soliso, and my mother is an autumn elf from Samhain, the capital city of the Autumn Mountains. I guess I just happened to receive the genetic short straw because I was born as a hybrid. Even though I was born on Solaire, I'm not 100% a summer elf. And I'm not quite an autumn elf either. See my eyes? Having different eye colors like this is called heterochromia, and definitely not normal. I get my right eye from my mother, and I get my left eye from my father. But it's more than that. My mutation extends to my magic, too. Unlike most people who can call upon at least 3 elements with one being their trusty patron, I can only call upon 2. I can call upon the patron element of my people, light, as well as the patron element of my mother's race, wind. Well, I appreciate you trying to flatter me, but it's not really as cool as it sounds. Both of the only 2 elements I can call upon are my patron elements. A normal elven body isn't supposed to be able to handle that level of magical energy, not without years and years of discipline and training. On top of that, I can only cast wind magic with the right side of my body, and I can only cast light magic with my left. Good eye. The tattoos on my right side look like wind, and the tattoos on my left do indeed look like light. See? And there's a reason behind this, too. These are no normal tattoos. The ink in my tattoos is made of a very similar type of ink as to what's on the spell tags we brought with us. It's Satyr ink. But they don't serve to enhance my magic, they serve to restrain it. No, I'm not some kind of super elf or something. I'm not even anywhere as strong as Master Rusia. It's just that having 2 patron elements can be really taxing on my body when I'm casting. And because I'm not the most talented magic caster ever, it's scary how easily I can lose control over a higher level spell when your magic is always turned on to 110%. So, having some restraints on my magic is more helpful than harmful, and the natural focusing ability that Satyrite has on magical energy is a huge relief on both my mind and my body when I'm casting. You have a question? Well, sure, ask away. Why did I describe all this earlier as drawing the genetic short straw? You caught that, huh? Well, for one thing, I don't really fit in with all the rest of the summer elves, do I? I mean, you saw earlier, I couldn't even manifest a simple fire spell to start the campfire earlier, and I don't know the first thing about flora magic. Hybrids aren't always viewed with the highest regard, especially when it comes to races that take pride in their lineage like the elves. I never really fit in with all the rest of the kids on my island growing up, and it's hard to get along with other magic casters when A, one half of all the magic you know, nobody in your race teaches, and B, all your magic is pretty volatile in general. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've created an accidental windstorm or a solar flare. On top of that, I can't really create any combo elements out of light and wind, can I? What is a combo element? Well, a combo element is what's created when you combine 2 or more compatible elements. For example, ice, the primary type of magic that Master Rusia casts, is a combo element between water and wind. There's countless combination elements. We believe even the spatial magic that the humans founded must be some kind of combination. Combination magic is incredibly powerful and versatile, but it's just not something I could ever do. You can't really create anything from combining wind and light, and trust me, I've tried. I grew up as a bit of an outsider. Don't get me wrong, my parents are amazing, and they tried everything they could, but to be honest, I've never felt more at home than I do here. No, not here. I mean, here, in Alsea, working for Rusia in the Human Research Lab and exploring the ruins out in the wilds, solving the mysteries of history, you know? That's why it's so important to me that we find out why exactly you're here. I don't know if some kind of a higher power brought you here, or if it was just purely by chance, or some other crazy third reason we have yet to discover, but regardless, I promise you that we'll find where you belong. If indeed you were brought here for a reason, we'll find it. Anyway, now you know. You think that my mutation is cool? Well, thanks. That actually means a lot. Anyway, enough about that. I just realized something. Earlier down in the ruins, that was the first time you'd ever seen magic, wasn't it? At least close up anyway. What did you think of my fairy lights? You really think so? Well, good. And you're right. Not to brag or anything, but light magic can be pretty convenient. Well, you can use wind magic for a lot of things. You can use it to blow things out of the way, you can use it to blast things back, you can create barriers out of wind. There are even wind spells that allow you to slice through things or shoot shockwaves. I mostly use light magic defensively, and wind magic offensively if I have to defend myself in a battle. Mostly, though, I just use my light magic to illuminate the way when I'm exploring, and my wind magic to clear out dust and debris in the ruins. Huh? Sure, that's fine. I'd imagine that you probably have tons of questions about magic. I, Levi Shurinel, will be your guide into all things magic. At least all of the things I know, anyway. Rusi is a much more talented and knowledgeable caster than I. But let's do it. What do you want to know? Ah, a good starting point. So, you want to know what spell levels are, huh? Alright, well, all spells are categorized by levels. Spells can range from 1st level magic all the way up to 10th level magic, with 1st level being the weakest and 10th level being the strongest. As I said earlier, I can use spells up to 5th level, and Master Rusia can use spells up to the 7th. 8th level magic is very rare, and 9th level magic is even exceedingly more so. Supposedly, the humans were the only race to ever master 9th level magic, and 10th level is generally only accessible to otherworldly beings like demons and celestials. Well, the levels of magic are determined by 3 factors. How hard is the spell to cast? How much of a toll does the spell take on your mana to cast? And how powerful is the cast spell? No, not necessarily how destructive a spell is, but how powerful. Think of it this way. Let's say you were to compare the 8th level spell Control Weather to the 8th level spell Fire Castle. Fire Castle is clearly the more destructive spell compared to Control Weather, which can only be used to change the weather within a 7-mile radius. But both are 8th level spells because, although Control Weather is not nearly the firestorm, pun intended, that Fire Castle is, it's incredibly versatile, and the mana, focus, and control that it takes to manipulate the weather in such a large radius is immense. The impact that such a spell has on the affected area can shift the tides of an entire battlefield too, so both are counted as 8th level spells. Do you see what I mean? Good. Obviously, the higher the level of magic you are attempting to cast, the greater the physical and mental toll it takes on the body, and the more focus, discipline, and control it requires. Can you mess up a spell? Oh, yeah, it happens all the time. They're kind of like magic flubs, and they can happen for any number of reasons. Spells can misfire, fizzle out, destabilize, or even blow back at you in extreme cases, and that's not even to mention the difficulties that come into play when combining elements to create combo element spells. Okay, you look kind of horrified. I promise I'm not trying to scare you, and it's not nearly as bad as it sounds. Okay, it can be, but not often. It's kind of like riding a bike, you know? Do you have bicycles in your world? Okay, one, that's fascinating. Gonna have to ask you more about that later. But once you've learned how to ride a bike, you know what you're doing, and it becomes second nature, right? But it's just as easy to fall over or lose your balance, no matter how experienced you are at it, if you're not focusing, right? See? It's like that. Sort of. Anyway, anything else you wanted to ask? Huh? Oh, well, a combo element is basically the result of when you successfully combine two or more elemental schools of magic. There's ice magic, which Rusia is a master of. There's heat magic, mud magic, shadow fire magic, thunder magic, lava magic, corrosive magic, steam and mist magic, and much, much more. The possibilities are endless, and on average, combo element magic is much harder to master than single element magic, as you are attempting to bend two elements molded into the desired combination at once. The chances of mishaps are higher, but the payoff is worth it. The right combo element in the right situation can turn the tides of any battle. Entire wars were won within days during the advent of combo element magic way back in the day. Oh, of course you can combine more than two elements, but the more you combine, the harder it becomes to control the spell. For example, storm magic is a combination of lightning, wind, and water element magic. It is cool, but for you, we'll start with just one element at a time. Hey, are you okay? What's wrong, human? What if you can't do magic? Oh, I see. You're worried that since there isn't any magic in your world, that you know of anyway, that you'll be incapable of doing magic in our world? Well, I can see why you're worried. Let's take this one step at a time, though. First, we need to know if your body can even hold mana. Whether you can use magic or not, every single living being on Gaia is capable of holding onto at least some amount of mana. So, we don't really have any reason yet to believe that you would be any different. Next, we need to know if you're capable of tapping into your mana. Oh, I have an idea. What am I doing, you ask? I'm getting my... There we are, my spell tags. Remember when I said that anyone who can wield magic is capable of using a spell tag since all it requires is for you to be able to concentrate and channel mana? Well, that makes these perfect to test out everything you're worried about magic-wise. With these, we can test if you have mana and if you can channel it. If you have those two traits, then casting magic should be a walk in the park for you as a human, even if you're not a Gaian one. Well, for this, I think we'll use this one. Very good eyes, human. The reddish-orange ink on this spell tag means it holds a weak fire spell, but it's not another ember spell tag. This one contains another level 1 fire spell called Candle Flame. Candle Flame does exactly what it sounds like. It generates a small floating flame the size of a candle flame. It's ideal for lighting candles and for providing weak light in a pinch. When you're finished with it, you just shake it out like a match. It's alright, there's nothing to worry about. Spell tags are totally harmless. Like I said, all the spell tag will do is generate a tiny flame. Do you want to give it a try? Alright, so take this. There you go. Now, hold the tag flat face up with both hands. Just like that. Just grip the two bottom corners and hold it out in front of you. Alright, well, don't hold your arms all the way out in front of you, just in front of you. Be comfortable, relaxed. There you go. Now, close your eyes and breathe. Focus only on your breathing. Feel the air travel in through your nostrils and collect in your lungs. Feel your body absorb the energy from the air. Imagine that energy pooling in a large reservoir within you, like somebody pouring water from a bowl into a large sea. A churning sea of energy ebbing and flowing with the rhythm of your breath. Now, Visualize drawing on that reservoir and channeling the energy down and into your arms, past your elbows, down your forearms, and into your hands. Now, focus on the spell tag, gripped firmly in your fingers, and picture yourself pushing that energy out of your fingertips and into the... Oh! Human? You might want to open your eyes now. Yeah, you did it. Like, a lot. No, it's a good thing. A very good thing. It's just, the flame is usually supposed to be a lot smaller than this. This looks more like a torch flame. Human, do you know what this means? You can do magic! On top of that, the incredible size and brightness of this candle flame spell suggests that the amount of mana you have within your internal magic reservoir is huge. This is so fascinating. It's almost like you upgraded it to a second level spell. You might be much more like the ancient humans that used to exist here on Gaia than you think. I don't know exactly what this means, but I do know that this means you're probably capable of some incredibly powerful magic. Heck yeah, I'm serious. I mean, just look at this flame. A regular candle flame spell does not look like this. This looks closer in size to a second level fire spell than a first one. Oh, ooh, it is actually beginning to burn the spell tag too. Blow it out, blow it out. Well, that spell tag is definitely gone. How do you feel? Like, physically? Not much different? Well, that's pretty normal, actually. Like I said, the mana was always in you. You just had no idea until now, so it's not like you'd suddenly feel physically stronger or like your skin would be buzzing or anything. I think that we definitely have more than just the spatial magic scrolls that we found in the ruins to tell Master Rusia about, though, now, don't you? Maybe now he'll treat you like a real human? Well, I don't know what that means, but we finished off the rest of the food, and I think that that was more than enough excitement for the night. Are you ready to hit the hay? Oh, yeah, I bet. Casting magic for the first time probably took it out of you a little bit. Where will I sleep if we only brought one tent? Oh, don't worry about me. I'm used to sleeping under the stars. Plus, somebody's got to guard you while you're asleep. No, there's no monsters in Verdonwood, but there's still wolves and a few bears, and you never know when it comes to bandits, so better safe than sorry. I'm sure. Don't worry about me, human. Remember, I have 2 Patron Elements. I can handle myself. Now come on, help me pack back up the utensils and we'll lay out our bedrolls. I'll keep the fire going the rest of the night for warmth and some light. That should keep most animals away. It should be nothing but embers by morning. Then, we'll have the bread and cheese we bought in town for breakfast, we'll pack up the fire spit in the tent, kick out the fire, and make our way back to Alsea. No, don't worry about the canteens. I brought more than enough lesser spout tags to keep our canteens full the entire hike back to the city. And like I said earlier, this time, we'll move at your pace. I promise. Great. Let's pack up our plates and utensils and get those bedrolls laid out so we can get some much-deserved shut-eye tonight. I think you might find the night sounds of Verdonwood surprisingly relaxing.